Hello, Hoovians, and welcome to the third channel. Now, today we start of a brand new series, and we start with a very special guest. We have the amazing, the one and only Alex Horne.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Tom.
Hello. So,
Hmm,
I've got a few questions to ask to get
I'm
the
all
ball
yours.
rolling.
I should say I don't think I'm amazing, but I'm very happy to be described like that by you.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, I think you're amazing because you're everywhere. Everywhere I look, I just see your face.
Oh dear, that's not a good thing.
Well, it could be, depending on where I'm looking.
Yeah. Well, same in my house, but we've got a lot of mirrors, so that's fine.
Yeah. Right. So my first question is, how did you start in comedy?
Well, it's a great question. How far back do you want me to go? I can tell you. I'll tell you a couple of things. I'll tell you three things.
Yeah.
So first of all, people often ask comedians when they realise they're funny, and I don't think I'm very funny. But at Christmas, when I was a kid, I could always make my family laugh. I think maybe when I was about 12, I suddenly thought I can make these people laugh. And I never thought, well, that means I want to be a comedian, but it stayed with me and I really enjoyed making them laugh. And then when I went to college and university, I started writing little things and it was like an itch I had to scratch. So when I was at university, I joined an open mic society where you can do stand-up comedy. And I did it once and it went well. And that was the moment when I couldn't really stop because it's the best feeling in the world. But I'll tell you one more thing. I worked in a supermarket called Budgeons,
Mm.
and I won a cracker joke writing competition. My joke was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Oh, those were the days. And that joke got me a spot at the local comedy club. So that was my
Wow.
first actual
Wow.
gig.
Wow. That's amazing.
Mm.
That's amazing. Comedy is like such a hard thing to like get into when you're starting. And do you have any tips for anyone that's like wants to start writing comedy?
Yes, because I agree with you. It is hard. It's terrifying, to stand up in front of strangers and try to make them laugh. It is very frightening. But lots of things are frightening. I think if you were a surgeon or a doctor, that's pretty frightening. I think if you're a policeman, that's frightening. And the worst that can happen in comedy is that they don't laugh and you go home.
Yeah.
And also, it's a lot easier than acting. Acting is very hard to get work, whereas comedy, you're your own boss. So all you've got to do is write every day, write
Yeah.
100 words and hope that they're funny, and then try to perform anywhere, whether it's at school, a scout group, a local theatre, college. You can get stage time. Any time on stage is useful.
Yeah.
So that's what you've got to do: write and get up on stage.
I'm a writer. We'll say that in inverting comments, and I find it hard because it's like you have to come up with an idea that works and flows, and
Mm.
like when you write like sitcoms and sketch comedy and all the others, it's more harder. But with stand up, you can take like bits from your life. Did you find it hard at first when you first were deciding to make it a career?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think stand up's a lot easier than those other things. I think I've tried to write sitcoms and it's so tough because it's got to have a beginning and end, it's got to make sense. Whereas stand up, you can just talk and we've all got a life that we can talk about. You can talk about your life, I can talk about mine. So, in a way, it's easier. But when I started, I just copied all the comedians I really liked, sort of by accident. I think it's hard not to. So I pretended to be, without realizing it, I was pretending to be Ardal O'Hanlon. He was my favorite, or Ross Noble, and you just channel the people you like until you find your own voice.
Yeah. Well, on that road of people that you like, who were are still is your
Mhm.
comedy heroes?
Well, it changes a lot all the time. So when I started, it was those guys. It was people like Eddie Izzard. There's a guy called Dave Gorman, who you might well know. Who
Yeah.
he was the first person I saw who did comedy shows that was they were telling a story, and they weren't just jokes; they were adventures he'd been on.
Yeah.
So that's what he got me into the idea that you could make a comedy show about anything, and it could be educational. I did a show about Latin because I saw that you can just pick a subject and go with it.
Yeah.
And then people like Ken Dodd, who died a couple of years ago, who's really old school entertainer.
Yeah.
He always had a band with him and did singing and dancing. So I do a lot of that sort of thing with my band now because I think I'm quite old fashioned. I don't really swear, and I like when kids and grandparents can watch my stuff and
Yeah.
enjoy it together.
Mm. Well, I agree. Dave Gorman and Ken Dodd are both really funny. As when I first, I think like one of the first things I saw was Dave Gorman's Are You Dave Gorman, where he goes around
Yeah.
using the deck of cards to try and find 21 or I think it's like 25 different versions of Dave Gorman, which I think is one of the highlights. And it does, as you say, show that you can just witter on about anything. And no matter how much money he's got, because he didn't look like he had a lot of money, he could make as much money into something as
Yeah.
humorous, and it still stands up today. Because I've got it on DVD, and I still
Mm.
watch it every so often. I just laugh out loud because he still is funny, no matter what he's up to now doing his panel shows, but he still is funny.
Yeah, and he also turned it into a book,
Yeah.
and it became an obsession, I think. So it wasn't throwaway. I liked that it was yeah, like you say, he went on a ridiculous adventure, and he kept spending money on these plane tickets, and I don't want to spoil it, but if you've not seen it, like you say, get the DVD or watch it online. But
Yeah.
he goes to some extreme lengths, doesn't he?
Yeah. Now we're gonna go. I don't know how far back this question will lead us, but what was your first ever experience on a TV set?
Good question, Tom. I was behind the camera before I got in front of the camera. So I was a runner, which is sort of the lowest job in telly, but really important. They're the people who actually make the program really, because they not only make tea for everyone, but they've got to drive the cars and they've got to look after the people who are on screen, and they've got to keep everyone happy. And you learn so much as a runner. So I was a runner on a couple of programs, and then I was a logger on Big Brother
Yeah.
Series 3, which is where a logger is somebody who has to watch what happens on the screen and type up all the notes so the producers can see what happens. So I learned a bit about telly before going on it. And I can't remember my first experience on TV at all. I mean, I was on Countdown as a contestant, a genuine contestant, not in the comedy version, but the normal version of Countdown, which was my favorite program growing up because I used to watch it with my mum, and that must have been 2009. And I think that was my first time on telly, I think.
Did you enjoy yourself on Countdown? Was it a fun experience?
It was because I managed to win an episode and I got the teapot. And if I hadn't, maybe I wouldn't have. It was very, very frightening because you have the big clock behind you and you have people watching you, and it's the time pressure of you've got to win the game,
Yeah.
and a lot's going through your head. I don't know about you, but when I was in exams, sometimes you have surreal moments where you're sort of just looking at yourself outside of your body. And it was like an exam that
Yeah.
a million people were
Yeah.
watching.
Do you
But
still
yeah,
use?
the answer was it
Yeah.
was so exciting. I loved it.
Yeah. Do you still use the teapot to actually make tea, or is it just in a cabinet somewhere?
It's on my mum's shelf. She used to collect teapots, although she didn't really. She had about three, and that meant everyone used to give her teapots every Christmas. So she now says she didn't. She didn't collect them, but she has kept the Countdown teapot. I've
Yeah.
never used it, but she has.
No, because I don't think you want to ruin the design if you're like pouring a cup of tea and then accidentally dropping it because it's too hot.
Yeah, it's probably one of my proudest possessions. Although she's got it, you end up getting stuff on telly that I keep everything. I'm a bit of a hoarder, but that's probably the thing I would run into a burning building and save.
Yeah. So, as a child, what was your favorite TV show growing up?
It's quite a few. So Countdown I watched with my mum a lot during exams. I love stuff like, oh my word, I can't remember what it's called. The Krypton Factor,
Yeah.
the Crystal Maze,
Yeah.
Challenge Annika, all these sort of game shows that involved a lot of action. And I think that sort of, you can see their influence on Taskmaster a bit, I think.
Yeah.
Games where you saw members of the public having
Yeah.
to do challenges.
Yeah. Would you ever, as a contestant, ever want to go on to the stand-up cancer edition of the Crystal Maze?
I would love to do that more than anything. I love escape rooms, and those, any charity TV show, they're fun to do because we know we're not really doing any good because we're just show offs on telly. But if you don't get paid for them, the fee goes to the charity, so it feels like you're doing something good. So yes, I would love to if you can
Yeah.
sort that out for me, Tom.
Yeah, because I quite like watching Crystal Maze, and it's quite interesting because you watch those and then you look at people how they create these escape rooms, and you can see where their inspiration is sort of coming from the certain different things you see on TV, like as in Crystal Maze, and then in the BBC prequel, the adventure game that was like taken similar. Well, I think Crystal Maze took the inspiration from the adventure game, but it's like similar things, and escape rooms, as you say, are really fun. They're really fun, and it's because you get to spend time with these group of 4 people. You might
Mm.
argue with them and say, no, it's not that, it's that. But in the end, you've come out of this room and you've bonded more because you've felt like you've worked as a team, and it defines teamwork.
Completely. We do it as a family. We've got 3 kids, and the youngest is 8, so he's a bit young, and
Mm,
lots of the escape rooms aren't appropriate. But we argue as well throughout. You know,
yeah,
I always I take charge and want to reach things. I've got to
yeah.
step back and let them do it.
Mm,
But it's so good. You come out the other end, even if you've argued, and you know everyone's talking about it for the rest of the
yeah,
holiday. It's brilliant. Wherever we go, we try to find an escape room. They're the
yeah.
best things.
Yeah, because once you've done one, you've got a bug. You've got this, not an illness,
Mm,
obviously, but you've got this escape room bug that makes you want to continue, do more, do more. And they're like they're really enjoyable because you get sucked into this made up story, and then you just
yeah.
like evolve, and it evolves, and you feel like you're there. It's like if you do the Western one, 1 minute, 1 minute you're in a London car park, next minute you're in 1980 1920s
Mm,
not West End, Western in
yeah.
America, and you're like a cowboy.
Yeah, and you can see how much effort the people have put in. They're real sort of passion projects, but the people who set them up, I think you know that they love them. They're not
Yeah,
doing it as a
yeah,
boring
yeah.
job. They love that job.
Mm. But moving on from escape rooms into another form of room. But what's your favorite task to film?
Favorite task we've ever filmed is a
Mm,
very good question. I mean, we've done we're coming up to nearly 100 episodes, and
wow.
there's 3 or 4 every episode. So we've done hundreds,
Yeah.
and I still get a real buzz when the contestant walks in the room, and I know what's on the piece of paper and they
Yeah.
don't. And every time they read it, and you see a smile go across their face, or they're worried about it, or they're thinking, how am I going to do this? I love it every single time. So I don't know if I have a favorite, but there was one in series 2, which I always mention, which is
Yeah.
where they walked into the town hall in Chesham, which is the
Oh
town where
yeah.
I live, and
Yeah.
the mayor was sat there in his chains. So they're instantly. Normally, there's not another person involved, so they're
Yeah.
instantly on the back foot, and it just said, "Impress the mayor. You have 20 minutes. Your
Yeah.
time starts now." And I think that was a really good one for making them work and think. And Joe Wilkinson's response was my favorite.
Yeah. Was the mayor hard to like acquire? Because you have to like acquire people. Was he hard to get, or did he reluctantly say, "I'll do this"?
I met him at a Chesham United match, which is our local football team, and he was very nice. Mayors don't
Yeah.
get paid. He's a volunteer mayor,
Yeah.
and he said, "Yeah, I'll do it. It might help the town." So no, he was a good sport. He didn't care at all.
Yeah.
He loved it.
Yeah, his face looked like he enjoyed it. From as a viewer's point of view, he sat there and looked at his face, and he did. He had to look like he was enjoying himself. I was just like he was a bit shocked and wasn't sure how to properly react.
Yeah, he'd never been on TV before. I don't think he has since, but that was what I liked about him. We try with the show. We try to make it as real as possible,
Yeah,
so we wouldn't get an actor in to pretend to be the mayor. It has to be the real mayor of
yeah,
Chesham. So his reactions are genuine. That's what matters.
yeah. And with the Taskmaster House, you've sort of changed it up a little bit. Now for the New Year's special and New Year's treat, you added a dome. Will that dome be sticking there, or will you be putting back the cow that was there in series 10?
Good research, Tom. The dome is sticking around for a bit.
Yeah,
Um, it's not in the next series, but then it comes back again
yeah,
because we film things out of order. We sort of move things around. The cow's sticking around now. The cow is called Linda, which is Ryland's mum's name,
yeah,
and she will stick around, but in a different place. She'll move into various locations.
yeah,
But yeah, no, we've got the dome for a couple of series because we just like to grow things at the house and we like to
yeah,
change it. And we always want to stay at the same place, but make it different each time.
yeah.
It's a sort of nod to the Crystal Maze a little bit.
Yeah, and you can tell because like since it's moved over from Dave to Channel 4, you can sort of like tell where you probably bought it from the Crystal Maze. They probably got like a spare one lying around,
They've
spare
got
crystal.
loads of domes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they've got a dome warehouse.
yeah, hundreds of these wasted domes.
Yeah,
They'll probably get you one if you want.
yeah. So since the show began, I think like 2015, it's become a phenomenon like a lot of shows do, and it spawned 15 international versions around the world.
Hmm.
And I was because I've not seen you mention this before, but I want to know what's your thoughts on the international versions and if you've seen any of them because there's only three that speak English, which is the UK version, the US version, and the New Zealand version that has featured Greg Davis on it before.
Yeah, well, it's very, very surreal and strange. You have an idea, and it's just a silly little idea. And we did it at the Edinburgh Festival, and it wasn't meant to be a TV show. So the idea now that other people are making it around the world
Yeah.
is really exciting and very weird.
Mm.
And I've watched bits of lots of them,
Yeah.
and but when the first Belgium was the first country that did it, and I went over and watched it, and they all spoke in Flemish. I didn't understand a word of it, but I found it really funny because I
Yeah.
knew what the tasks were.
Yeah.
So you're still seeing the people do the thing,
Yeah.
and it was really extraordinary for me. It was amazing seeing these other people laughing at sort of my idea, but also what's been best about it is the Swedish version is
Yeah.
going really strong, and it's a
Yeah.
big program there,
Yeah.
and they come up with their own tasks, and it's kind of taken on its own life. So it's nothing to do with me really.
Yeah.
So I really love seeing it grow in other people's hands,
Mm.
and seeing people be creative and imaginative.
Yeah, because in the circle I'm in on I'm not 100% sure what it is, but there's a website called Reddit, and there's got a Taskmaster
Mm,
Reddit page that's full of like people just like talking about every version of the show, not just the original, and that's where I found a lot of these versions, and
right.
what I've decided to do, but it's very hard. I've tried to learn Norwegian to watch the other versions
Mm,
because on the third channel, which is the channel we're on now, I'm trying to do a Taskmaster International after show where I talk about some of the versions. But because I can only speak English, it's very hard to watch them.
mm.
Since watching Taskmaster and you know the format, you can sort of just guess what's going on.
Yeah, it's
You can just
frustrating
work
though,
it
isn't it?
out.
Sometimes you want to know what they're saying.
Yeah,
The Norwegian version features a couple of guys from a band called Ylvis.
yeah,
If you want to go down a YouTube rabbit hole, have a look up Ylvis. It's Ylvis. They've got a song about Stonehenge, which is my favorite song in the world.
yeah. Yeah, and then the New Zealand version, which has become really as successful the UK version, might I say, and it was really good. Now the bits that I can without spoiling it, but there will be some spoilers involved in what I'm about to say. So if you haven't seen it, watch it. But there's a bit in it where they're trying to give a task for something you wouldn't give the taskmaster, which is Jeremy Wells. And then his Brinley Stint has brought on a video of Greg Davis having a go at Jeremy Wells, which I think out of every version, isn't Greg Davis has never appeared on any other version apart from the original.
I think you're probably right. Yeah, it's very strange. I mean, we've got when I was growing up, there's Gladiators was big on ITV,
Yeah.
program called Gladiators, and they did an international version where the champions of each country came and played against each other. And I'd love to do that with Taskmaster. Have someone from the New Zealand one come along to someone from the Norwegian one.
Yeah.
But Greg would have to be the Taskmaster.
Yeah.
There's a few different versions of Greg around the world, but for
Uh,
me, Greg is the Taskmaster.
Yeah, and it'd be very difficult if you was gonna do that. You would have to have the contestant and then a translator sat next to him, so that the audience can laugh, and the viewers at home can laugh because it's like because someone said on some tweet that you made that they wanted to see assistance of assistants. Now
Mm.
that'll be difficult because there'll be loads of people on there, and you can't clone yourself because you're in the US version as well. So you can't clone yourself, and the only person you'll be able to speak to would be Paul Williams, because the others would just not even speak to them. Well, some of them will, because some countries speak Norwegian, but not all of them. And some of the shows that failed, like the Germany version, they won't be able to talk to anyone because they won't be invited.
Mm. That's a good point. Well, there's a lot of logistics to work out before we do it.
Yeah.
But I really like Paul Williams in the New Zealand one. I find him very funny. He's sort of got more of a strong character than me, I think.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'll let you know if it happens.
Yeah.
You can sort
Well,
out all those problems.
yeah. Well, with the New Zealand version, that someone pointed out that on James Acaster, who's a Series 7 contestant, on his stage show, I think it's like 1999, I Hate Lasagna. The music that plays before he walks on is Paul Williams' music. So Paul Williams is playing his music before James has come on. So it's like you combining the two Taskmasters together without none of them knowing what's going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite a small world, the comedy world,
Yeah.
especially New Zealand and England and Australia. All the comedians know each other really. So Rose Matafeo I knew for a good while, and yeah, the Williams brothers are well known, and he's a brilliant musician. So yeah, I know what you mean. It's a very odd. There's a lot of links.
Yeah. And then we've touched on it brief, but did you have to did you have to sell the rights to them, or did Avalon do that? Because when you look at the credits, Avalon, you only see Avalon's name mentioned in the UK version, New Zealand version. Did you have to give permission or anything?
I stay well out of anything to do with that. No, so the way it works is they're the production company Avalon,
Mm,
and I don't know what you call it, the originator of the idea. So we share the idea between us,
yeah,
but they do all the work of um, getting it to various countries and making sure that the program stays true to itself and they don't ruin it.
yeah,
And I'm meant to consult on it. And if they want to ask me any questions about how it works, me and the team answer them. But no, financially, I do not do any deals
yeah.
because I would not be good at that.
Yeah, because I've noticed that a lot of panel shows and game shows are the only type of programs that have successfully worked in international countries, like sitcoms such as The Office has
Mm.
sort of succeeded in America, but not really. But how did the US version come about? Because that version had like mixed reviews, like where the others like some people like them, some people don't. The US version has sort of mixed reviews. How did that come about? Because you were involved as the assistant next to Reggie Watts in that version.
Yeah, it was interesting. We learned a lot. I mean, it was for Comedy Central, and we went over there, and it's all very exciting because it's America. And I really loved doing it. We spent 6 weeks there. Andy, the director of R1 in England, was the director over there as well. And we made it with Reggie Watts, who is one of my heroes. And it changed quite a lot. It was half the length of the English one. It was 22 minutes
Yeah,
once you take away the adverts. And we probably learned that that was a bit too short. And so we changed the format probably too much. But I don't know. I'm very proud of it. I kind of wish, I always think you should have two series or something to let it settle. So I think if we'd had another go, who knows what would have happened. But I'm very proud that we did a series and it was so much fun.
yeah,
And I should say the American comics were great because
mm,
people were worried it was a very British sense of humor. But I don't think it is.
yeah,
I think the comics would work over here just as well. But I'm not sure if the audience quite understood it. But who knows? Who
yeah,
knows? It was
yeah.
an experiment.
Because when you watch, for instance, James Acaster on the Late Late Show, you see the audience. The bit I don't like about American audiences is that when James does his standard like little break, the audience just feel obliged to clap. They think, oh yay, clap, woo, woo. And when it's the point is that they're supposed to stay silent and they're supposed to laugh at it because that's the whole point. And I think shows like Taskmaster have got too much laughter in it and too much of the audience to feel like it's their duty to fill the gaps of
Mm.
silence, which is
Well,
supposed to be there.
it was different, the audience. We had to record some of them at 9 o'clock in the morning because of the slots in the studio. And still there was an audience there. And still, even though they didn't have a clue who I was, they introduced me and they all go mad and clap because they're trained to do that. And the warm up guys are very good at whipping them into a frenzy. But you're right. I think sometimes that does ruin the subtlety of things. But I can't blame the Americans. I think it was we did our best and it didn't quite work.
Yeah. And as a little insight, when you look at the audience, is there by any chance the little box that lights up to tell them to applaud? Or is that just fictional?
There's not a little box, but there is often a warm-up person doing that. Just to, you know how it is. As soon as
Yeah.
one person starts clapping, everyone joins in. So
Yeah.
there will be somebody encouraging it. It's
Mm,
not fake, but it's boosted.
yeah. Which is nice to hear because you always hear the whole it's canned laughter when it's not always and knowing that now you know that it's less fake, it's more just encouraging them just to get into the spirit and then you are filming it don't feel as more like worried or nervous. You can just relax and you can just feel like you're there to do a brilliant job. People are going to enjoy this.
That's true. Yeah, you need the warm-up people are really important to get that atmosphere. It's a strange one though because they are people. So quite often when you're in those situations, there are 300 people in the room with you, and you care more about them laughing than the people watching on telly at home, even though there's far more people at home, hopefully. So yeah, you want to feel. You're right. You want to feel as relaxed as possible.
Yeah. Now bringing it back, bringing it all back to you, bringing it back to the UK version. Would you ever put it on Netflix or BritBox?
Um, I have no idea, Tom. Unfortunately, that's nothing to do with me. I don't know how these things work. You know, Channel 4 have it now, so I don't know. It's a very
Yeah,
good question. Hopefully, these series will end up somewhere, but maybe they're all on all four somewhere. So yeah, I don't
because
know.
it's a weird one. So all four, this is a little insight for the viewers that are into all this. All four has series 1 to 10 plus Champions of Champions, and on the other side, that's a bit bizarre. That UK TV Player only have series 1 to 9 and Champions of Champions. And when you scrolling through, you see the adverts for the all four bigger streaming service. You see Taskmaster involved and and then you go Dave, which is Dave, the rerun channel, more than the original channel.
I
It
mean, I have to stand up for Dave though because they were the ones who launched it. So.
Yeah, they show Taskmaster like really late, like in the morning. No one's gonna be watching it at 1 in the morning, but they show it like all day, every day, and it's like quite bizarre because E4 are there trying to give it a new lease of life where David show rerunning the same episode, even though you probably seen the episode millions of times and you enjoy it. It's a bit odd to me because licensing, because we have like I don't know how the licensing works.
Nor do I. It's a mystery.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't really add any information there, but it is odd, isn't it? I
yeah,
mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I do like occasionally an old episode will crop up as at home with the kids,
yeah.
and I hate watching myself on telly, but I'm always pleased if it still makes me laugh.
Yeah, yeah, and I like the idea of like it's whilst you're scrolling, it engages a new audience. So if say for instance it isn't on E4 all the time, but when you scroll through this and you catch it on Dave, you feel you watch it and then you get hooked to it, and then you become and you want to watch more, and then you Google it, and then you find the best way to watch. Because I think all four, um since Series 10 is released, they've made the whole of the series a lot better than it was. Because I was watching when it first launched, the day of Series 10. They made Champions a bit odd because they made it longer than the actual program is. Because what they had done is they had put the actual program in and then they had put the program in again. So if you're going to watch the whole thing through to clear you continue watching, you have to watch the exact same episode, like twice in the exact same viewing,
Right.
which is
You
quite
know
odd.
more than me, Tom. Yeah.
Yeah, which is quite odd. And then moving from streaming, if you were going to put Taskmaster on DVD, what special features would you add?
Oh, so many. We've thought about this a lot. The trouble is, you know, there's only so much time in the year, but I'd love to do a behind the scenes thing of how the tasks come up with, well, either a genuine one showing the workings of it, or a sort of more fictional life of the taskmaster and his
Yeah,
assistant. Um, you know, we could do director's commentary, but Taskmaster's commentary, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We've talked about doing kids versions, and we've talked about doing animals versions, Dogmaster. There's a million ways you could do spin-offs.
Yeah.
I don't know if DVDs sort of happen anymore. If people still
Well, my house is full of DVDs. I think from the Christmas just gone, I think we had to develop room. We had to make room in my house for DVDs because I love DVDs to the end of the world and back, including VHSs. I'm that bizarre. I'm still on a VHS player, just knocking about with VHSs.
that's impressive. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a shame. I mean, yeah, it's not. I'm glad that there are people like you because
Mm.
I miss albums in music. I don't know who buys CDs anymore. Do you buy
Uh,
CDs?
well, I buy CDs, cassettes, and vinyls.
Right.
Yeah, I've got a hi-fi that still works, which is an original hi-fi that plays records. And I buy all the latest records and or not new music because new music is horrible.
Is it?
I stop at early 2000s. It's from the fourth, well, let's say 1914 to early 2000s is my cut-off period.
Right.
From old-timey war songs, you pack up your trouble in your old kit bag
Yeah.
to year 3000 by Busted.
Yeah. But nothing post busted.
Nothing but busted. Everything else.
No Beyonce.
No,
No.
no, I wouldn't even understand who she is.
Fair enough. You've got to cut off somewhere, haven't you? Otherwise, when will it end?
Yeah, and what I think for the DV, what I was thinking about this, I was thinking about this before, and I was thinking for the DVDs, I think the special features would work really nicely if you had the series one, like episodes, and then you have the podcast, and you have the series 10 podcast, because that would work really
Yeah.
neatly. But you could like have like different like clip where every time you hear the audio of a clip, you would insert the clip into it instead of just having the stature famous pictures of the people in the frames over the nice, like beautiful red backgrounds.
That would work. I'm into that. I like making it as rich as possible and as detailed as possible. I love that there's a podcast now by
Mm,
Ed Campbell.
yeah,
Yeah. All right. I'm going to get thinking.
yeah. But what are the origins of the podcast? I'm not going on Polish podcast.
Well, I think we just realised that lots of people want to talk about it and hear about the behind the scenes. And there are a couple of other great podcasts. There's something called Melon Buffet, which
Yeah, that's a popular one in the community. Yeah,
yeah, no, and we love that that existed, and it's such a compliment that people want to talk about it. And there's one over in America called
Task
The
Miss.
Task Mistress.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with Thingy Green, the creator of
yeah,
VidCon. Well,
that's right, Hank. Yeah, I talked to
Hank,
him recently, and yeah, he's very nice. And so I think we just thought, well, we should do an official one too, really, because that way we can answer some of the questions we're asked a lot,
yeah.
and it's just fun to chat about it. Ed's a very good host.
Yeah,
So
I quite like so when I do what it was set out to do, I would watch the episode and then make my whole family just say, right, I'm listening to the podcast now. If you don't want to listen to it, tough luck. We're listening to it, and I have it playing, and I listen to it because I've just seen the episode, so I understand what's happening, and it's very insightful. And one of my favorite episodes was when they had Rosie Matafeo on because they got to mention, right, so with their Taskmaster, the podcast, when Rosie Matafeo was on the episode, it got to shed light on the New Zealand version, and I like it when the originators and the officials mention like the international version because then you know their opinions and whether they like it, and you got to hear Rosie's opinion of whether she would ever go on to it because I don't know whether you have ever thought about revisiting old contestants to bring them back against a new set of contestants or trying to win Greg's big head.
yeah, we have thought about it. I think there's so many comedians out there that it would be a disservice to them to revisit old people, and I think you lose a bit of the spark once you've done it, you've broken the seal. So
Mm.
I would always want new people. But what did Rose say? She say she'd go on the Kiwi one?
Yeah, she said she would go on it, but I mean, it's similar to I think the Series 11 contestant Mark something. I'm not 100% sure if
Mike
I'm.
Wozniak.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, he's got his last name that I don't know how people pronounce it, but he was on the Edinburgh Fringe
He
edition.
was.
So,
Yeah.
so it's like a similar thing to that, where technically she could go into the New Zealand version, but but everyone in New Zealand on TV3 have been watching the British
Hmm.
original,
So
so
it
it
would be
would work
weird.
as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. I think they probably want fresh people as well. But she'd be great. She's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah, and one of the ideas I've been throwing around on this Taskmaster Reddit thing is having a Australian version with the people like the anti Don that I think is either one person or a whole group, but them but having a
Mm.
New Zealand not a New, an Australian version would be good, and
Yeah, I agree.
I would think Adam Hill would be a good host because he's really good on the other program he does, Spics and Specs, that you've actually featured on with your band.
Yeah, a long time ago, maybe 10 years ago. But yeah, no, and we'd love to do an Aussie version, and hopefully one day we will. I think there's a big overlap between British and Australian and New Zealand sense of
Yeah,
humour. So yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun.
yeah. And now, speaking of the horn section, how did that come about? How did you like begin the band? How did you meet the other bandies?
The other bandies and I met a long time ago, 42 years ago. I met two of them because we went to primary school together. Our mums were friends, and we're the same age. We're all weirdly the middle of three boys. We've all got older brothers and younger brothers. So we went to primary school together, and then we sort of lost touch slightly. Not lost touch actually, but we didn't hang out as much. And then they became jazz musicians, and I became a comedian, but weren't doing particularly well. And then when I was 30, I was going to have a kid, so we got back in touch and said, look, let's try to do something together because we were desperate.
Yeah.
And it was just fun. It's just friends mucking about on stage. So that's it really. We're old friends
Yeah.
who are trying to have a good time.
Yeah, I quite like when I first heard it. I think we were on I think we were driving to like Rochdale and you were on the radio and then the song played that made me like laugh. Even my mum that was driving the car at the time was laughing to a dangerous level at Chris Hoy who loves the Savoy. And I'm
He
thinking
does love a Savaloy.
I just couldn't stop laughing and you're like right, we need to calm down before this car crashes into a tree or something.
Oh, that's great to hear. Chris Hoy has actually come on our podcast and sung that song with
Yeah,
us, which was a
yeah,
highlight of my life.
yeah. He definitely does love the Savoy.
Yeah.
And he's Chris Hoy.
Oh, it's very funny to imagine you and your mum listening to that and not crashing, but nearly
Yeah,
crashing.
yeah. We were in a big yellow car,
Right.
which is even more bizarre because it like stands out in a car park, and you think, oh, I might lose the car keys, and then you just see just a massive bright yellow car, and you know that that's your car in the car park, not someone else's.
Mm.
It stands out. But what's your favourite song you've ever done with the horn section?
Um, well, we have a song from a couple of years ago, or maybe a year ago, about uh, Joe, the trumpeter's granddad, and his pea farm, and
Yeah,
that got the biggest reaction that we've ever had. It's a very rude song, and I find it very funny. So that one, Granddaddy's Peas.
you performed that on one of the last leg of the years.
That's correct. Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it was a few years ago. I'm not 100% sure now.
I think it was last year,
It-
which is not that long ago. But and I got into a bit of trouble because my friends around here, their kids watched it and then started singing it, and they're all 6 or 7 years old. So,
yeah,
but there's no rude words in it. It's
yeah,
just it's all in the mind of the listener.
yeah. And would you ever want to do a regular spot on the last leg, like what Reggie Watts does with on the Late Late Show? Would you ever want to be the last leg official house band, not the part-time house band that has the rest of the year off, just sitting eating peas?
Yeah, I think we'd love to. I mean, we did the New Year's one this year as well, so we've done three of them, and we love the show, and we always like going on it. So we'd happily be the house band if they had us, but they've got more than enough going on.
Yeah,
They have great guests on that show.
yeah. And now, Yeah, here we go. Here's some
Here we go.
really good questions.
All right.
There's a YouTuber that I watch, and for the life of me, I can't remember her name, which is quite annoying. I never remember her name whenever I try and mention it. But she's also a massive Taskmaster fan because she talks about it all the time. And so I got in touch with her over Twitter
Right.
and asked her for some questions,
Okay.
and she gave some really good questions. One of them would be, have you ever wanted to be a contestant yourself?
I am happy not being a contestant because I think I would take it too seriously and be desperate to find the tricks every time and to win. And I wouldn't be entertaining. I think I would be quite annoying because I like my position of being all knowing and quite smug. So yeah, if it wasn't on telly, I'd love to do it.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
And then her final question was, have you ever tested out the tasks on yourself?
No, because they come out of my head in general. I think I'm always sort of aware of the different ways of doing it. So
Yeah,
no, I haven't tested them. It's bizarre, but occasionally what happens in the show is there's tasks like surprise Alex when he comes out of his shed in an hour,
yeah,
and those ones I'm suddenly on the other end of the task because I don't know what's happening. So
yeah,
I kind of know what it's like. I've done a few of them where they have to keep everything from me and I have to just walk into the room and react. So I know what it's like, and it is weird because normally on telly you know exactly what's going to happen because you don't want any surprises.
mm,
So yeah, it's odd for the contestants because they really have no clue what's going to happen.
yeah. So, last year there was a program on ITV called Quiz, which is about the criminal, well, not criminal, but the coffin incident with the
Mm,
money. And Michael Sheen got to play Chris Tarrant. Who would you see playing yourself and Greg Davis?
great question, really good question. I mean, it would be very odd if they made a sort of a documentary remake of Taskmaster because of a scandal. Um, I mean, it's easier to cast Greg really because he's so
Yeah.
distinctive. I think I've got a fairly nothing face. Um, it would have to be. It's a
You could just steal Paul Williams from New Zealand.
Yeah, you could do. I wouldn't mind Joe Wilkinson playing me, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'd quite like just smarten him up slightly
Yeah.
and have him shuffle on. I'm more interested in who would play Greg. There's got to be
You'd
some.
have to find someone tall.
Yeah, it'd probably be Richard Osman in the end.
Yeah. And then you have to
Richard
dye
Osman with Wilkinson assisting.
Yeah. But if you're gonna have Joe Wilkinson, you have to shave a bit because you've got a bigger beard.
True. I might
Yeah.
play him. Yeah, I'll let myself go and he can smarten himself up. We'll swap roles.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's your favorite panel show that you watch or like or have actually been on? But what's your
It's got
favorite
to.
panel show other than Taskmaster? Because I know
Yeah,
Taskmaster is your favorite panel show in the world,
it's
and you
very
watch it
good.
on a regular basis. You're religious. It's your own religion. The Taskmaster religion. You watch it 20 times a day. You pray to Greg Davis, the
Do
almighty Greg Davis.
quite right.
What's your favorite panel show that you like to watch or be on?
It's got to be Would I Lie to You? It's just every time it's funny. If you've got half an hour spare and you want a laugh, it never fails. And I'm on an upcoming episode, and I was very nervous, and I did all right. I wasn't very funny because you can't compete with Lee and David and Rob, but I really loved doing it. They're really nice people. They looked after me very well, but I was a bit worried about spoiling my favorite program. But yeah, always that show.
Yeah. One of my favorites, other than Taskmaster, which I have got a list of because I love doing lists, and that's for the YouTube channel that still watching this riveting conversation. That is an upcoming video, and one of my favorites is QI because of. Well, it's QI. You can watch QI, you can watch QI XL, or you can watch QISS. And would you ever want to go on QI by yourself?
But with no other panelists.
Well, no, I mean like without your band with you.
No, I'd love to. What's the SS version?
The SS version is a 15-minute version where it's like different clips from the show. It's like different little snippets.
Oh, that's very clever. No, I'd love to. I like everyone on it, and it's a great show. Any show where you can watch it again, like I say, with your kids and your parents, and feel like you laugh and learn something.
Yeah,
Got to be good things. Classic BBC stuff that as well. It's
yeah.
brilliant.
And on the road. I don't know why we're on a road, but
We
on
can
the
go on the road.
line, it's the line, not the road. On the lines of this is what contestant of Taskmaster what contestant do you want to see on Taskmaster that you haven't asked yet?
Well, I always want to see Jack D on Taskmaster one day. I have asked him, and he's been busy, but I'm going to keep asking.
Yeah,
Apart from that, I'd like Sarah Silverman, please.
yeah, because Jack D is another good one. But the last time I saw Jack D on TV, he really didn't look happy. Because he was
Ah,
on about the history of life at the Apollo, and he really looked like he hated everyone.
okay. Well, I'll bear that in mind.
Yeah, because he was leaving. Because what happened was he's on about he created Live at the Apollo, and he was on about how when he left, everyone else became more successful than him, and he's badly on TV. And it,
He was original host, wasn't he? I've
yeah,
forgotten. Yeah.
yeah, and so with Jack D appearing in Josh Whittaker's sitcom Josh, would you ever like to be in a sitcom or appear in a sitcom?
Good question. I don't think I can act, so I would have to be playing myself. Like we'd love to do a Horne section sitcom. We've been toying around with that for a bit, so that's the one I do. But I couldn't play anyone other than myself,
Yeah.
and I think I'm similar to Josh in that respect.
Yeah, I could see you doing a mockumentary called At Home with the Home section.
Well, it's very odd you say that because
Yeah.
that is the title of the script that I'm writing. Honestly, it's called
Yeah,
At Home with the Horne section. I could show you it right now.
yeah. It's and what it is that there's a Tom Allen who you probably know really well. He was on some random program I've never seen before called MTV Cribs.
Hmm.
And I could just imagine a home section version.
Yeah, but that's pretty much the lines that I'm going down. So it will look like I've nicked the idea from you now.
You just walk down and just show a basement, and then it's just like audience members are strapped up, being
Yeah.
forced to be there.
Well, I had about 4 or 5 audience members in my kitchen in my version, but yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully one day you'll watch that.
yeah, yeah. And do you find it easy or hard to write the task? Because I know as a Taskmaster writer myself. That's a plug to my fifth channel, Online Taskmaster. I find it hard after a while to write a number of tasks. But what's your, because you've done, as you said earlier, nearly 100 episodes of the show now. So do you still find it hard, or do you find it quite easy just to, oh, I have a task, oh, I have a task, or is it like, oh, I have to write more now?
It's never a slog, but yeah, I think I'm lucky. It hasn't become hard yet,
Mm,
but it's hard to come up with a really good one, I'd say.
yeah,
Like you get some in every series, there's maybe 5, which I think are really good tasks. And the rest, hopefully, are good, but they're made good by the comedians.
yeah,
But there's 5 every series you think, yeah, that's a really good one.
yeah,
So when that happens, it's like a joke, really. When a really good joke strikes as a comedian, you think that's great, and you can write one a year like that.
mm,
So it's not hard, but it's not under my control. It just happens to be a good idea. It lands in your head, but you've just got to be ready to write it down. That's the key. Just be ready to spot it. But I
yeah,
did come up with a good one yesterday, so
yeah.
I'm happy at the moment. I've got a good one up my sleeve, but I can't tell you in case a future contestant is watching.
Yeah. And so you mentioned on the Taskmaster podcast, I think, right at the very beginning of series 10, and then it was later revealed on Zoe Ball in Radio 2 in the morning, which is a random time to reveal it from. So you mentioned how one of the future contestants that yet wasn't revealed, a child had wrote a task. And then it was Lee Mack that it's his child that he mentioned on Radio 2 in the morning on Zoe Ball.
Did he? I didn't know that. That's good.
Did, did you make the decision to do that, or did you think it was so good you had to borrow it?
It was so good we had to use it. Basically, his kid is brilliant and comes up with loads of tasks. And Lee said this to us, and we thought, well, it's better than any of mine, so it's got to go in the show. And we don't really want to take other people's ideas because it feels a bit wrong. You don't want to nick people, But if it's with permission and it makes the show better, then why not?
Yeah, yeah, and did it help without giving it away any spoilers because of NDAs and all this television nonsense? Did it help Lee do the task, or did it hinder?
It wasn't in Lee's series. It was in it's in the forthcoming
Yeah.
series. Oh no, it's in the series that's happened. So it was a task. It was in Johnny Vegas's series. It was the draw.
Oh.
It was a draw the monster task,
Oh.
which was which is a studio task, episode 9, I think maybe,
Wow.
where Greg read out all the details of the monster and they had to write it down and they had to
Wow.
draw it without. Uh, Greg spoke very quickly and they had to draw it with all the details, however many legs it had and that sort of thing. So that was the task.
Wow. I thought it was going to be an upcoming one. I thought it was a whole mystery. I just thought it was upcoming. Wow. That
No,
that is
done.
that is
There's your
that's an
exclusive, Tom.
exclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So with you do other stuff. You don't just do Taskmaster and Horns. You don't spend 24/7 either looking at Greg Davis's face or looking at the faces of the band members. You also do other stuff. Now, would you ever want to make a TV version of No More Jockeys?
Ah, I was trying to think. I didn't think I do any other stuff, but I suppose I do bits and bobs. I don't know really. So this is a thing on YouTube that me and my friends Tim Key and Mark Watson do, and no one edits it. We have a brilliant editor actually, but no one gives us notes and no one tells us you can't say that.
Yeah.
So it's a joyful thing for us because we just play the game.
And you do a lot of other stuff, as you say, with Bad Golf, I think it's
Yes.
called.
Yeah.
Which I personally, I don't think golf's for me because of like well, my grandparents are proper golf addicts, and now my brother's a golf addict, and
Right.
having a golf club in the face isn't the best thing in the world. So watching that gives a sweet relief because
Right.
it's like it's a comedian playing golf, and then you feel less like you have to watch Tiger Wood kick a ball and you think, well, hit a ball, and then just not see this ball. But it goes into the air
Yeah.
and then it blends with the sky.
Yeah, my ball doesn't go very far, luckily. Yeah, that's another one though. That John Robbins is the guy I do that with, and we live near each other. And occasionally we used to play golf, so we thought we might as well stick a camera on it and see what happens. So
Yeah.
it's just something we do for a laugh.
Yeah.
And like I said before, we are just show offs. We're very shallow people who crave attention.
Yeah. Now, yeah, which a lot of people try to do, but not always in a good way. But what's your favourite program you've ever appeared on with the Horn section? Because you've done a few appearances, and we mentioned previous with the last leg, and you've also appeared in a few episodes. I don't know how many episodes, but a few episodes of the program. 8 out of 10 cats does count now, and you're in Dictionary Corner.
Yeah, always enjoy doing that. That's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more the weird ones. Like we were on the Royal Variety Show with Greg,
Yeah.
and that's, even though it's not necessarily my favorite show, it's quite, you do sort of think, oh, this is weird that we're on this big stage.
Yeah.
And we did our own show for Dave. We did a 2-hour special
Yeah,
at the Palladium.
I quite enjoyed that because that
Oh,
reminded
good.
me that reminded me of the old shows such as Sunday Night at the Palladium or
Yeah.
She's Revival Friday Night at the Palladium.
Well, yeah, where we were there and all the posters were up of Ken Dodd's old shows, and he died just before that.
Yeah.
And all our mums were in the audience, and that felt like our proudest moment, probably,
Yeah.
even though, not an awful lot of people watched it, but it's something that we've always got. And we've got the video, and
Yeah.
we love doing that. So hopefully my grandkids will watch that and go, look, there's my granddad on the Palladium stage.
Yeah. Now speaking of Dave, which I found out just a few days ago, Dave has done millions of podcasts, and you're in a lot of them. You just appear in a lot of them. Did you enjoy making these Dave podcasts? Or
I did,
do
yeah.
you
I used to
remember
do it.
them?
No, I used to love that. I used to do a podcast called Alex Horne Breaks the News,
Yeah.
and that was before Taskmaster, and it was a good way to learn about
Yeah.
a bit about telly and about other comedians, and just podcasts are brilliant for expressing yourself and writing stuff and just getting stuff out there and without the pressure of a channel, I suppose.
Yeah. And I've got a few more questions left. So with Taskmaster, you see a lot of comedians that are modern and become successful because they've had a landing point of being on this show and then become more and more well known. Because a lot of people don't know them and then they end up knowing them and finding them and loving them. and knowing more about them. But is there any comedian that you would want to have on the show, either dead or alive, such as Buster Keaton, Laurel and Hardy? Because if they were still knocking about, I would love to see Laurel and Hardy on Taskmaster, in the Taskmaster house, faffing around with a cow.
Yeah, we've never had a double act before, but we might break that rule for Lauren and Hardy, I suppose.
Mm.
It's a great question. Which dead comedians would I have? I mean, it's probably Doddy still. I'd
Yeah,
have Ken Dodd, but I don't think the shows would ever end. That's the problem.
no,
Because but I sort of see Frank Skinner as a bit of a modern day Ken Dodd in that he's
yeah,
just a funny man who can't stop telling jokes. So
and
yeah, I can't not have Ken Dodd, but I'd have Victoria Wood as well.
yeah. Yeah, because there's a lot of old comedians that you watch now and you think, oh, they'll be good on such a program, and I think one of the I'm gonna say people, but not every person is a person in this scenario. I don't think Emu and Rod Hull or Tony Hull, I think that's what he's still called, would ever be good on it, because there'd be Rod, a lot of Emu chucking Rod Hull into a freezer in Tesco in the frozen aisle.
Mm. Well, I think it's the mix of people, isn't it? If you had Rod Hull, I wouldn't mind Peter Cook because I think he would
Yeah,
sit there and be scathing about Rod Hull's antics.
yeah.
Um, oh, it's a shame we can't just dip into the past. But yeah,
You technically could, because Tony Hull, which is Rod Hull's son, did a
right.
program for CITV back in, I think, 2006 called Emu.
Well, there we go then. Well, in that case, I'll have Andy Kaufman as well from America. See what he would do.
Yeah.
And I'll have Robin Williams as well, please.
Yeah, well, they're really good. They're really good choices, but I think they're the weakest link episode of puppets, and I could imagine if you did a puppet edition of Taskmaster for probably for like a charity. I can imagine Sooty, Sweep and Sue with Zippy trying to make a teardrop into a cup. You'd be watching them and they're
Puppet.
like,
I mean, I'm tempted to write this down, Tom. Puppet Master
yeah,
is a great suggestion.
yeah.
Master of puppets, like the
because when you
Metallica.
watch the Weakest Link episode, you see Anne Hegarty. No, not Anne Hegarty. Anne Robinson.
Robinson.
You see Anne Robinson, and you see how she reacts to him. But having a program on at 9 p.m. after the watershed, you can say whatever you like. So you can insult Gordon the Gopher, Ed the Duck, Sooty Sweep and Sue, and Greg Davis can be as hard as possible to them because they're not real people.
Would we include Bungle in that? He's not quite a puppet. There's someone in
Um,
him.
Yes, because I think you could allow full body puppets because
Good.
I'm if no none of my viewers know already, I'm also a puppeteer as well as everything else under the sun.
Right.
Because I've got a array of puppets, so I think full body puppets would really work. So
Yeah.
like Big Bird would work.
Mr. Blobby.
Oh, I think Mr. Bobby would have to be on a Halloween edition.
Look, I'm writing this down. I'm having this.
Yeah, because
Puppet version of with Mr. Blobby, Bungle,
Big Bird.
and
I
Big Bird.
I can just imagine that. But I can imagine that because you could always film the driver and it'd be Jeremy Clarkson as a chauffeur. Because in the Mr. Blobby music video, it's Jeremy Clarkson as a chauffeur.
Is it?
Yeah.
Love it. Brilliant. Right, Mr. Blobby. Just writing this down. Bungle. I don't like Zippy. I don't really want Zippy. Is that all right? I'll have Ed the Duck.
I mean, Zippy's a bit annoying. Greg, you would just see Greg all the time just leaning over and just zipping up his mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so now we're gonna edge down to the last few questions.
Right.
What or where is your favorite place you've ever gigged around the world with either the Horn section or with your own stand-up routine that you did in the past before you went mega famous with a group of other guys?
Okay. I'm going to pick off the top of my head the Raffles Hotel in Singapore,
Wow.
which I did after my first Edinburgh show. Tim Key and I did a show there in front of all these expats, and it was fine. the show was all right, but we had a brilliant adventure, like a week in the middle in Singapore, and we went up to some island, and just to be paid a little bit of money to go to the Far East to tell your jokes was the weirdest experience, and just so exciting. So that was a really fun memory.
Did the audience speak English by any chance, or were you? Well, did you have a translator?
No, they spoke English. Singaporeans are very bright, and there was a mix of 50 probably Brits and Singaporeans, and yeah, they didn't get every joke.
Because Adam Hill, who I think does a few things that other comedy acts should join, is that he has a sign language person on him at all
It
time.
does.
And I think if when you go to a place like Singapore, having like a sign language person or a translator would work. But with a translator, they always say something after the people have said it. So you're there, stood there waiting for a laugh, and you're like, and it doesn't always translate because it's like they might not find it funny or they might laugh when you're
Mm.
on your next joke.
There's a lot of pressure on that translator. If they don't get a laugh, I'm blaming them.
Yeah. And would you ever? So speaking of Tim Key, would you ever do any poetry like Tim Key?
I don't think I would. I think he's got that nailed really.
Mm.
So no, I mean, I barely write the songs in the Horne or the lyrics. No, I don't write any of the music, but I do write some lyrics, and that's hard enough. So no, I'll leave him to the poetry.
And my final question: Who is? This is including Series 11. Who is your favourite contestant you've had on the show? This is including Series 11 plus the Edinburgh shows.
Obviously, I don't have a favourite, but obviously, if I did, it would be Bob Mortimer.
Yeah.
Just because I was a huge fan of him growing up, and to spend time with him, and for him to be on a show that I do was a real honour. And he didn't let me down in any way. He was so nice, but mainly so funny. So I'll go with Bob. But equally, we've had 65 people now, and I haven't got. There's not one that I wouldn't have back.
Would you ever have Vic Reeves on to even up the double
Would
act?
love to have Vic. And Bob always said he would be so good on this. So fingers crossed. Before we come to an end, we'll have Vic.
Yeah, yeah. So hopefully Taskmaster lives on way into the year 3000 when we're living underwater. But hopefully you can still present Taskmaster underwater.
I think Taskmaster Underwater would be just fine.
Yeah. And my very final question, because I thought of this just this second. So, McFly and Busted were banned in the early 2000s. And I only just recently found out they did a double act called McBusted.
Busted, big fan of that. Yeah.
Would you ever do a join together with Brett Domino Trio, the Horne section of Brett Domino Trio? Would you ever join together?
We've already done that, I'm afraid, Tom. But years and years ago, when we started, we did a couple of. He came and did stuff with the band, so he played his songs and the band played with him, and it was brilliant. So we'd love to do that again. I haven't seen him for a long time, but I really like what he does. So yes.
Because I feel like when I'm watching Brett Domino doing something bizarre, my brain always goes back to the Horne section because I feel like I can see the similarity, and I can see where the Brett Domino trio lacks in like personality because there's not a lot of people, and his other friend, I won't call him a friend. He's just a silent bloke sat next to him.
He's very funny. Yeah, if you've not, I think he's on Countdown every now and again, and that's great. That's what I like about that show is that they give an audience to people like him because he's brilliant.
Yeah, and it gives comedians the chance that don't know. It's like comedy characters. It's a very good place for comedy characters, such as Nick Mohammed's comedy character.
Adam Richards as well.
Yeah, and then there was I think it's someone that played Sean Bean, but it wasn't Sean Bean.
That's Adam Richards. Yeah.
Yeah, that's him. And that's like, and then Sean Bean probably all watching him thinking, that's not me. I'm Sean Bean. That's not Sean. He'll be like a parallel universe. He'll have it. Yeah, he'll be like one of those.
I wouldn't mind Sean Bean playing me actually in the fictional version of Taskmaster.
Yeah. So I've really enjoyed having you on I was going to say podcast, but it's a video on this wonderful interview. And hope you guys at home have enjoyed watching, or if you've just put it on in the background whilst ironing some crease shirts, which if your shirt is creased, please iron it. If you've enjoyed it, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe for more madness from Tom Grant Mason Productions. Hope you enjoyed this video. Time Lord Tom out. Ta-ra!